Bless you, thank you. If nobody... Come on. Come on now. Bless you, thank you, thank you. Some would say you get more sense out of a sausage dog than me, but there we are. Wonderful, wonderful. Let me just get myself sorted out, make sure I'm okay here. Marvelous. We should be good to go. Thank you. Thank you. Can I just say a big thank you to the guys at the back as well. They've worked so hard. Come on. It's not always easy, and we only tend to notice them when things go wrong. And actually they work incredibly hard. And thank you so much for serving me and helping me. Can I just say it's been an enormous honor to be with you again at camp and to celebrate the 50th anniversary of this great camp and to celebrate with you lives that have been changed forever by the power of God in this place. And I count it an enormous privilege to be part of it. Jim, thank you again for the invitation. Thank you so much for persisting with me. And I know that you've been very kind and generous and patient to me with me over the years. So I do appreciate that. And I'm so glad that in some small way I'm part of the journey and history of this great place. And whatever the Lord, come on. Whatever the Lord has for us in the future, that's in His hands, but we can celebrate His grace and His goodness for what He's done with us. So it's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the hospitality. I've been so well looked after in terms of the hotel's been gorgeous. Thank you so much. And so well attended to. So I really, really do appreciate it. We've just enjoyed having breakfast together every morning. I've been having breakfast with Peter and Jane and the other Peter who's somewhere around here. Where are you? Where's the other Peter? There he is. And we've been having breakfast together every morning, solving the problems of the world before 9:30. It's been amazing. And it's been absolutely glorious. So thank you for your generosity. We'll be getting off pretty promptly after lunch. It's just that we're straight off on holiday tomorrow, so we need to get home, unpack, repack, and then an early drive to the airport tomorrow. So that's the plan, but it's been a joy to serve you. So we have been looking in our series at Overcoming Oil, and on Monday as our brilliant, that was amazing. That poem was absolutely amazing. I don't know how you do it. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. And not just caught words, I think she caught heart. She caught the heart, absolutely captivated the heart, which is a great encouragement to me and maybe others in the room as communicators, because you know you're being heard. Not just people are hearing the words, but you're being heard. So that was amazing. And Monday we did look at the oil of submission. And we asked this incredible question, what do we do when the Father is silent? And hopefully that has been an encouragement to you as we go forward, that when the heaven is silent, that actually we continue to do the last thing the Father told us to do. And we hold steady. Don't run for the exit, but actually stay in Him. And then we looked on Tuesday at the oil of strength in the context specifically of Jesus' sleeping friends. When He returned to them, they were asleep. And we asked the question, what do you do when your friends are sleeping? And of course, as we heard again this morning, and even in the poem, don't focus on your friends. Look beyond your friends and focus to the Father, and that will allow the oil of strength to flow from you. Then on Wednesday, we looked at the oil of steadfastness, and we looked at the whole issue of Judas, which Jonathan has powerfully alluded to. And we asked this question, what do you do when Judas betrays us? And again, for many people in the room, I know that was a moment for you. There was just a moment of facing up to some stuff, releasing some people, and moving forward into something. And that's Premier League Christianity. That really is outstanding decisions of faith to be able to do that. And then yesterday, the oil of surrender. We asked the question, what do we do when the crowd comes for us? And when it looks like they're in control? Well, we remember they're not in control. That actually there is a greater plan at work. And we know who we are, we know what we have, and we know why we're here. And if we can do that, then actually, though that moment when the crowd takes us, it looks like weakness, actually we're free. And Jesus was the freest person in the olive grove that night, yet He was the one being bound and dragged off. So I really do hope and pray it's been an encouragement to you. And all the way along, we've been looking at this idea that when the olives are pressed, you don't want to crush the seed. If you crush the seed, it releases potentially bitterness into the oil. And so actually we want to press, and other language can be used of crushing the olive. We want to press it or crush it, but not crush the seed. Because actually that will be counterproductive. So in the moments of pressing, the Father wants our oil, but the devil's after your seed. And if he can release bitterness or cause circumstances to release bitterness into our lives, then actually we are truly, truly in trouble. And everything in our world will be infected by that. And so we're coming to our conclusion this morning. Thank you for sticking with me. I know a number of people had to leave and have already expressed their apologies to me. So thank you for coming again to number 5. And we're looking this morning at the oil of success. And I've got 2 readings for you. We'll read from Matthew 26, from our passage we've been looking at for the very last time. We'll just read this together, and then we're going to read another passage from Exodus, and I'll just land this today, hopefully, for the glory of God. So Matthew chapter 26, verse 36, and it says this: When Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed a third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd. Well, in fact, I'll leave it there just for the sake of time. We'll not go any further on that, because we read that the other day. And then if you have your Bible still in your hand, flick over to Exodus chapter 27. I know that's a bit of a leap, but go from Matthew all the way forward in your Bible to Exodus. Exodus 27, verses 20 to 21. In my Bible, it gives you a little heading here. It says, "Oil for the lampstand." So this is some direction on preparing the oil for the lampstand that would sit in the tent of God. Verse 20, Exodus 27, "Command the Israelites to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light, so that the lamps may be kept burning. In the tent of meeting, outside the curtain that is in front of the testimony, Aaron and his sons are to keep the lamps burning before the Lord from evening till morning. This is to be a lasting ordinance among the Israelites for the generations to come." When God was wanting light to be present in the context of his tent, we might call that tent the tabernacle, actually he called for the design of a special lampstand. The lampstand in Hebrew is menorah, from which we get the word, and it's become known as menorah. So menorah just literally means lampstand. And it's a special lampstand in that it was designed in a special way. And if you want to read about the design, you can flick back to Exodus chapter 25. It's designed in a special way, and it's designed for a special purpose. And in fact, this menorah has become probably the symbol of modern Israel. It actually sits on the Israeli crest today. It's an instantly identifiable symbol because it represents at its heart this idea of light and the idea of perpetual light in the presence of God. And the reason this menorah or minaret was designed is so that it can bring light into this tent of meeting. In fact, this menorah would sit in the holy place. And Aaron and his sons would attend to it and look after it and make sure that the light actually shone. But where did they get the fuel for that light from? So where do we get the fuel that actually keeps this wonderful light continuously burning in the presence of God? Well, actually, we're told this in Exodus, and it says this: command the Israelites to bring you clear olive oil. That's very important. Clear olive oil. Oil without blemish. Oil without contamination. Crushed for the light, so that the lamp may always burn. Now the normal practice for creating the oil from the olive would be to press it, and we've sort of looked at that, and that idea developed over the centuries. But here, God is specifically asking that these olives be hand crushed. So they're not to be sort of created in an industrial level. This is to be something very personal. This is to be something done in a very personal and unique way, in a very careful way, because God wants this pure oil. And in fact, a more literal translation would be this: bring your pure beaten oil for the light. Now, you just got to trust me on that. That would be a more accurate translation. So it points to the idea that they're not just throwing some olives into a basket and pressing it, but actually someone is responsible for taking these olives and personally, literally crushing them, breaking them down so that we get this oil. And then they would have to literally filter the oil so there was no contamination. There was nothing in the oil that would affect the light. So you've got something very, very specific going on here. In reference to this passage, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, he says this profound little thing. He says, to produce light, something must be crushed. And so you get this idea, this incredible paradoxical idea, this tension, that at one level we've got this glorious symbol of light in the presence of God. We've got this magnificent lampstand, this minaret that sits there in the presence of God, doing this amazing thing. But what's making this menorah effective is the fact that something was crushed to produce it. So actually, we all focus on the light and say, that's amazing. Look at that amazing light. Look at that gorgeous light. But actually, something was brutally crushed. Something was pressed. Something was squeezed in order to produce that light. And there is something profoundly symbolic in this moment, potentially, throwing itself forward, a shadow throwing itself forward to Jesus himself, that actually, here's Jesus in the garden being pressed, being, we might want to say, crushed, being put through spiritual, emotional, physical, and psychological presses, but actually, out of this terrible pressing and out of this terrible crushing, there would come a light that would literally illuminate God's purpose and presence and power across the earth. That today, billions of people call Jesus Lord. Today, there are more Christians alive on the earth than have ever lived up to the history of this moment. There are more people following Jesus than we can possibly imagine, really. It's the most incredible thing. And yet all of them are experiencing the supernatural grace and love of God because they have experienced Jesus' light, which came out of this crushing moment. So the light comes from the crushing. And actually, as I meditated and thought about this idea of the light of the menorah that comes from the crushing of the olives that have been crushed or pressed by hand in order to produce the purest possible oil, it brought an inevitable understanding that actually out of this terrible pressing, success can come. That actually, when we look at the pressing moment, it looks terrible. When we look at the pressing moment, it looks like the life of the olive is gone. When we look at the pressing moment, it looks like the olive is spent and wasted. But actually, what the olive produced in its moment of pressing lives on in the light of the menorah. That actually, when we look at the menorah, we're not just looking at the light, we're looking at the fruit of the olive. We're looking at the fruit of the pressing. We're looking at something that was given up in this pressing moment. And it's easy to be captivated by the light and think, that light's beautiful, that light's amazing. But it's remembering that the light that is produced in all its glory has come out of a pressing moment. And I believe this powerful idea, and this is what I want to land with today. I believe that out of the pressing, God can bring light. And he can produce a light out of our pressing which is potentially greater than anything we could have possibly imagined or even anything that we could orchestrate ourselves. That's the idea. When we look at Jesus, we see that Jesus' pressing produces a light which is literally still shining in the world today. People today will come to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior because the light of his glorious gospel is shining all around them. That light has come out of his pressing. When people looked at the menorah, they saw a light that was being produced by something that was crushed, something that was pressed, something that gave up something in order to produce something bigger, better, more glorious than it ever could have been on its own. And that idea that the olive actually, as it, forgive my language, as it dies, as it gives itself, as it is crushed and pressed, actually it yields something even better. Now listen to me carefully. Even better than that for which it was originally designed. I love olives. I'm the only person in my family who eats olives. I could eat olives till they're coming out of my ears. I absolutely love them. And olives are a little bit Marmite. You either love them or hate them. There's no middle ground with an olive. Okay, who loves olives? Wow, a clearly very cultured group of people here at Hollybush. Who hates olives? There we are. If you've never tasted an olive, just try one and see it. Now when we think of olives, we generally think that its first and primary purpose is it's to be eaten. But actually there's this glorious, magnificent purpose in an olive that is bigger than the eating. When you eat an olive, it's in, it's gone, it's worked through your system, it blesses you, it helps you, and it's good for you, and on it goes. But actually, when the olive is crushed, another purpose for that olive is released that actually is bigger than the olive itself. It goes further than the olive could have gone. It reaches further than the olive could have possibly dreamed, if an olive can dream. And actually that's the glory, that's the supernatural, miraculous moment of the pressing. You see, God can bring something out of the pressing that is even beyond the boundaries of the olive. He can bring something out of the pressing that is greater than anything you or I could have orchestrated. He can bring something out of the olive that actually we couldn't have made happen with a million lives. He can do something that is beyond this moment. And actually, that's a powerful idea. I watched Jim's little video, 19-minute video. Where's Arthur? Is Arthur in the room? Do you know, I haven't met Arthur yet since I've seen the video. I'm desperate to give him a hard time over that marvelous hairstyle of his. And Jim, I don't know if you remember the moment where Jim cuts the potato. And he says this, unless it falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed, quoting John 12. A powerful idea. And actually, there's a sense in which
The potato on its own can be something. So that single potato, that single olive can be something. But if that olive is prepared to be crushed, it becomes something bigger. It goes further than its just original design. It goes further than just being eaten. If the potato, forgive the language, is prepared to die, it produces something beyond itself. And one of the most glorious faith moments in the press is this, that when we're in the press, the danger is we become consumed by the press, and that's totally understandable. But actually what we've been trying to negotiate with and bring out this week and hopefully encourage you with is that there is something bigger than this moment. There is something bigger than you. There is something bigger than me. There is something bigger than this split second that we are in the context of eternity. And if you and I can find something of the presence of the Father and something of the Word of the Lord in the midst of all of that, we can go further than we ever dreamed. On our own, we'll go so far. If we allow the Father to draw oil out of us, our oil can go further than we could have gone on our own. And so this olive is crushed, and suddenly now it becomes light in the holy place. It becomes light in the presence of God. It becomes something else. And it becomes something else because God, in its DNA, designed something to be released when it was crushed. You can enjoy it by eating it, or you can press it and get something else from it. And that's a deep spiritual idea that runs through the pages of the text. That actually if we are prepared to die to self, if we are prepared to yield, if we are prepared to allow the Father to have his way, he can produce something beyond this moment. So what did the oil produce? Let's go back to the menorah. What is going on there that we could perhaps pull some lessons forward to help ourselves with as we think of this? Well, first of all this, when the menorah was lit, it was a light of worship. Right? Now I'm not making this up. I'll try and draw this out of the text. So when those lovely, as it were, bulbs were lit in the presence of God, it was, one of the signs was that it was a symbol, a sign of worship to God. Now how do we know that? Well, it tells us in the text. Now look at the words really closely. Command the Israelites to bring clear olive oil, crushed for the light, so that the lamp may always burn. Now that's the NIV translation, and it's a slightly weak translation according to the power of the Hebrew text behind it. If you were to translate, and you've just got to trust me on this, if you were to translate the Hebrew literally, it would read like this: to cause a lamp to go up. Right, now that doesn't sort of make sense in English. So the sort of practical translation of that is to cause the lamp to burn. That's the idea behind it. But actually, the idea of the Hebrew here is to cause the lamp to go up. And the nuance and the symbolism of this is that the light of the menorah is an offering to God. It's not just light that chases the darkness. It is something that's going up to the Lord. In other words, at its very heart, the symbolism of the menorah is of worship. At the very heart. Now I know I'm on sort of difficult territory here in that we can sometimes make things say what they're not. But from the text itself, I think I'm on safe ground to say that the menorah was a symbol of perpetual worship to God. And in fact, that sort of practice, the lighting of the candle, is still part of certain Orthodox practice today. Because it's the idea that it symbolizes the going up of my worship. Literally, the going up. And that's at the heart of this menorah. menorah. That when the olive was crushed, it was to produce light that would go up. Now, in certain Jewish theology today, they believe that the 7 branches of the menorah speak of the 7 first words of the book of Genesis. Now, the opening part of Genesis says this in the English Bible: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, that's 10 words in English, but the Hebrew words driving those 10 words are 7 words. Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. 7 words, right? So there's this within Jewish theology, and we may not want to go here with Christian theology because we don't now put any attention in these symbols, but let's just hang around here for a moment. Let's just imagine that idea is a sort of a good idea. The idea that the 7 branches represent the 7 opening words of the Bible. The central figure of the 7 opening words of the Bible is Elohim. It's not me. In the beginning, God. Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, God. We are confronted with God. In fact, if you read the Genesis text, God, Elohim, is mentioned 32 times in the text before we get to Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. He is the central character of the story. Can I say this really carefully? The Bible is not a story about us. It's a story about him. It's all about him. It begins with him and it ends with him. It's all about him. Can I say with all due respect, it doesn't begin in a garden and it doesn't end in a garden. It begins with him and ends with him. He's the source of all things. It's not about me, it's about him. He is above and beyond. And actually, the symbolism is a powerful one. Don't want to go too far with that as a Christian, but this wonderful idea, when they looked at the menorah, not only did they look at light that was going up to worship, but it reminded them of the 7 opening words of the sacred text. In the beginning, God. Not in the beginning, me. Not in the beginning, my prosperity or my plans or my desires. In the beginning, him. In the beginning, him. In the beginning, him. The whole idea of the menorah was to focus their attention on him. It wasn't about them. That's the heart of the oil of success. If you and I can see him in the midst of it all, and Peter and Jane have brought phenomenal blessing and inspiration in teaching to us over the last number of nights on this very idea. If we can see him, success flows. The more I'm learning to take my eyes off me and realize it's not actually about me, I just have the privilege of tagging along. It's actually all about him. Bereshit bara Elohim. It's about him. It's about him. It's about him. And when they lit the menorah, they weren't thinking of themselves. They were thinking of him. Why? Because the first duty of the oil that came out of the crushed olive was to go up. To go up. That's what the olive was made for. Not to be eaten with your salad. The olive's greater purpose is to create oil that would create a flame that would go up. Even God's creative order is designed to go up. Something in the DNA of the olive is made to worship. What does this teach us? What's the oil of success? The oil of success is this. The Lord is above all. He is above all. That's the oil of success. If in the midst of my pressing, my ups, my downs, my ins, my outs, my good days, bad days, and ugly days, I offer up to him. That's is the oil of success. That's the oil of success. If I can, forgive my language, if I can drag myself out of myself for 5 minutes and catch a glimpse of his glory and catch a glimpse of his majesty and dare to believe in the midst of this horrible moment and this press and this injustice and this that actually there is a God in heaven for whom this whole story is designed, then something rises up. Worship rises up. I've learned more about worship in the last 5 years than I've known for the previous however many years of my life. I've learned to worship God when I felt nothing. I've learned to worship God with no music. I've learned to worship God with no smoke machines. I've learned to worship God with no atmosphere and with no CDs playing in the background. I've learned to sit in the presence of God at 6 o'clock in the morning and look at him and say, you are King. You are Lord. You are good. You are majestic. You are marvelous. There is no one in the whole universe like you. I begin every day with confessions about who he is. Now, it's a long time before I start asking for anything. Just look at him. He's magnificent. I'm going through stuff. You're magnificent. People are against me. You're magnificent. Life sucks. You're magnificent. What's happening? The menorah, metaphorically speaking, the oil of the olive is producing upness. It's producing light that's going up. It's producing pure worship. Nobody's watching. Nobody's recording it. Nobody's monitoring my actions. It's me and the Lord and sometimes pepperoni. Dogs got brains. Why wouldn't you want to be in the presence of the Lord? Even the dogs worked it out. It's a good place to be. Place of peace, rest, life, restoration, hope. And actually, all that dog wants to do is come when I'm sitting there with the Bible on all he wants to do is come and snuggle up on my knee. There's a little picture there. Just wants to be with me. Here's a thought. Have we heard that somewhere? When confronted by the devil with an insidious temptation, all of this I'll give to you. All of this stuff. See, here's what the devil's trying to do in that temptation. He's trying to make it about Jesus. And how does Jesus respond? Worship the Lord, your God, and serve him. What does Jesus do? He makes it about him. See, if it's all about Jesus, then the kingdoms of the world look attractive. But how does Jesus respond to such a temptation? He goes back to what it's really all about. It's not about me. It's about him. Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. In fact, that promise was given in Deuteronomy 6. And that was as the people were about to possess the land of promise. And essentially God was saying, don't focus on the buildings, don't focus on the fields, don't focus on the possession, focus on me. And I'll give you the buildings. And I'll give you the vines. I'll give you vines you didn't even plant. I'll give you buildings you've never built. I'll give you wealth you never earned. But the key is, look at me. Because this is all about me. This is not about you. Dawn and I went to Berlin last month for our 30th wedding anniversary. Anybody been to Berlin? Lovely city. It's well worth going to. I mean, I have to say, it's not the most attractive city in the world. I've been to prettier cities. But historically, it's amazing. If you like history, Berlin is definitely worth a wee look. And some of you might recognize this. Even if you've never been to Berlin, you might actually recognize this tower. Well, in English, it's the imaginatively named television tower. Berliners tend to call things what they are. It's really, really weird. Okay, so it's the television tower, and it's in Alexanderplatz, or Alexander Square, in Berlin. It was built between 1965 and 1969 by the German Democratic Republic government. So by then, some of you, we're all of an age where we remember the divide, and you had East Germany and West Germany, East Berlin and West Berlin. And so this was built in East Berlin as a symbol of communist strength. But it was also built, of course, as a spine tower to pick up the airwaves and the TV waves and the radio waves across the wall. All right? So it's built in Alexanderplatz. It's 368 meters high. It's the tallest structure in Berlin and in Germany, in fact, which is a remarkable idea. And so it stands there, and it's got this sort of golf ball thing at the top, which is now a restaurant. You can go up and have some food up there, and it's quite an amazing, amazing thing. A little backstory behind this. The then leader of the German Democratic Republic, the sort of East German nation as it was then, was a man called Walter Ulbricht. And as it was being built, there were a number of churches around the tower. They're still there. Those churches, I've seen all of those churches. And he was so pro-communist and anti-God that he said to all of the churches in the area, as this was going up line upon line upon line, he said, I want you to take all your crosses down. And so he commanded that every church building in the city around the immediate area of Alexanderplatz take down their crosses. So they all had to go up on their roofs and take down every cross because he hated the idea of Christianity and the cross and Jesus. And so they did. On the 3rd of October 1969, the television tower was unveiled. And when they unveiled the tower, something phenomenal happened. Whatever way they designed the golf ball at the top, whatever material they used, when the sun hit it, it produced a perfect cross. Now, it's not easy to see. You just got to trust me. You can Google this. Check it out. I'm not making this up like it's some weird Christian illustration. This is absolutely true. In fact, Berliners call this the Pope's Revenge. I wanted to call it Jesus' Revenge, but nobody wanted to go with that. But it's the Pope's Revenge. That's what it's known as. And wherever you are in Berlin, if you can see the television tower, when the sun is out, you can see a perfect cross. They've tried everything in their power to change it. And whatever they do, they can't fix this idea. It keeps shining as a cross. John, what's your point? My point is this. He's above all. Men are building their towers. Men are doing weird stuff. Men are manipulating. Men are working. Men are scheming. Men are doing this and men are doing that. And it looks at this level like men are winning. It looked like in 1969 the communists are winning. It looks like Walter Ulbricht is winning. It looks like it's all going wrong. And then in one glorious moment of irony, it's like Jesus says, okay, let me just show you how puny you really are. And as they unveil it, there it is. The tallest cross in Germany. Built by a communist. Praise the Lord. Isn't Jesus wonderful? Listen, the oil of success declares he is Lord over all. I know it's time. Parents, if you need to go, just go now. That would be great. The oil of success declares he is Lord above all. When you, in the midst of your pressing, can say he is Lord above all, oil flows. That's success. That's true success. Whatever it ends up looking like, whatever ends up happening for or against you, whatever, whether you get a cross on the ball or not, when you, in the midst or out of your pressing, can say with true heart, he is Lord over all. That is success. It's true success. It's true success. And most of those statements will be said when nobody's looking. And few are listening. But all of heaven hears it. And heaven stands to attention when a gorgeous follower of Jesus, broken and bruised by life, says, you are Lord of all. And the angels say, wow, look at that. The light of worship is rising up. That is a powerful moment that we must not underestimate. Here's the second thing I want to bring you. The menorah not only gives us the light of worship, but it gives us the light of witness. And look at this. This is a powerful idea I really need you to get as we've been landing the different themes that Peter and Jane have brought as well throughout this week. Look at the text, Exodus 27, verse 21. Keep the lamp burning before the Lord. Now, again, can I just say, I love the NIV and I enjoy it. The translation here is just, I think, just something slightly gets lost, and I understand why. So let me give you the literal translation. Keep the lamp burning before the face of the Lord. Le paneh Yahweh. It doesn't just say before the Lord. It says before his face. Now that's a common Hebraic idea that if someone said, I'm before your face, it means I'm in your presence. So that's the nuance behind it. But the literal translation here is, when the menorah is lit, it is to be before the face of God. It's not just a little lamp in his presence. It is a symbol of a face-to-face idea. We touched on this last year, I think, in different things that we looked at, so we're not going to go there again. But this gorgeous idea that the menorah is in front of the face of God. That when it's lit, it's a reminder that the face of Yahweh is with us. That he is here. That the Lord is with us. And if we are intentional about the things we've been taught this week, we are intentionally, like the light of the menorah, positioning ourselves in front of him. We are in his presence before his face. The oil, the crushed oil of the olive, the second message of the crushed oil of the olive is this: the Lord is with us. The Lord is with us. Why? Because the menorah, the minaret, put before the face of Yahweh. It's not just sitting in a room. The symbolism is it's before the face of Yahweh. That literally the face of the Lord is being lit by that light. That he is that close to the light. One of the things the enemy wants to do in our pressing, and we've alluded to this week, a big issue I want to land again. One of the things the enemy wants to do when we are pressed, one of the bits of the seed he wants to steal is, the Lord has left us. And this is a devastating and dangerous idea, which can be deeply destructive. So in the light of that, I want to take you to potentially a controversial idea, and I hope you don't get too upset with me over this, but stay with me. Jesus utters 7 statements on the cross, and this statement I've never understood. Because potentially it's a contradiction to other statements on the cross. Father, forgive them. Well, why would Jesus pray to the Father to forgive them if the Father had gone? Jesus later on prays, into your hands I commit my spirit. But how can he commit his hands into the spirit of one who's gone? My God, why have you forsaken me? And I was raised in a school that taught the sin of Jesus was so great that he was carrying for the sin of the world that the Father couldn't look at him, and the Father abandoned him on the cross. That can't be true. Because Jesus is at the very center of the will of the Father when he's on the cross. Jesus cannot be more doing the will of God than on the cross. Why would the Father abandon him? But John, that's what it says. Well, it does, and maybe it doesn't. What? Well, stay with me now. Throughout Jesus' life, he often doesn't just quote a text, he quotes a passage. So when he says something, he's not just quoting the words of the text, he's expecting us to understand where that text came from and what that text actually means. He never takes a text out of its context. He never makes a word of the Old Testament say something it doesn't mean. He always brings the actual meaning. So Matthew, he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? But let's go back to Psalm 22 for what that is taken. Psalm 22 verse 1 starts, my God, why have you forsaken me? And then it goes on to say this, why are you so far from saving me, so far from the words of my groaning? So if we were to do the full quote, it's like Jesus is saying, Father, why are you so far away from me? Why aren't you close? Now if we leave it there, if we leave Psalm 22 there, then here's what it concludes. The Father abandoned Jesus. He left Jesus, not only in his greatest point of need, but he leaves Jesus when Jesus is actually at the center of the Father's will. But if you have the courage to read on in the Psalm, there's another message. In fact, Psalm 22, verses 12 to 24, really describe the cross. And if you read it carefully, there's almost a direct parallel between what he says in Psalm 22, verses 12 to 24, and what Jesus literally suffers on the cross. There are incredible correlations. And listen to this. Psalm 22, verse 24. It says this, for he has not despised or disdained the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry. The one time the rain comes is the one time I want it to be quiet. Now stay with me. Look at this. The beginning of the psalm, it looks like whoever's bringing the psalm is deserted. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you not listening to my cry? But by the end of the psalm, he's saying, you've not despised or disdained the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry. Could it be that Jesus actually, instead of saying on the cross, I have been forsaken, was actually saying, it looks like I am abandoned, it looks like I am forsaken, it looks like this is over, but he has not abandoned me, he has not despised me, and in fact he has heard my cry. That's why Jesus can then say on the cross, Father, into your hands I give my spirit. He could do that because the Father had not abandoned him. The Father was with him. In a moment where it looked like Jesus was completely abandoned, Jesus is actually saying, it looks like I'm lost, it looks like I'm abandoned, but he is with me. He has not abandoned the work of my hand. Now listen, I know that's not to some people's head here, and I've taken a big risk, and some of you have fallen out with me now over the whole week is lost because of that one idea, but listen to me very, very carefully. It doesn't make sense to me that everything the Father leads Jesus to, when he actually does it, the Father clears off. It doesn't make sense. What makes sense is it looks like Jesus is broken and abandoned, but actually he is not forsaken because the Father is with him. I don't know if you want to run with that idea or not, but I'll tell you what the oil of success is. The oil of success is me and you in our moments of greatest need, believing he is with us. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That's oil. That's oil. And when it looks like it's over, when it looks like everything's against you, there is a conviction within you that no matter what it looks like, and no matter what people are saying it looks like, and no matter what people are saying to you, and no matter what you're even feeling, he has not abandoned me. He will not abandon the work of his hands. My name is inscribed on the palm of his hand. I am the apple of his eye. I am his workmanship and his masterpiece. Before the foundations of the world were even formed, he saved me. Why would he abandon me? He is with us. You with me? Sure? All right, here's the last one really quickly. Stay
Bear with me now. Give me another few minutes and we're done. This is the last one. The light of walk. Love this idea. It says this, that the minaret, the menorah, was to shine in the tent of meeting. It was to shine in the tent of meeting. Now, some of you will know, who studied the Torah, there's this interchange between the phrase tent of meeting and tabernacle. And actually these two ideas are used interchangeably. But every time tent of meeting is used, it points to a greater sense of intimacy in the context. Tent of meeting. And isn't it striking that the light of the menorah was to illuminate the place where God wanted to meet with us? Tent of meeting. It wasn't, the light of the menorah wasn't put in the holiest of holies where someone could only go once a year, and Peter's already alluded to that. It was in the wider access point. It was a point that represented God's connection with humanity. The invitation into the holy place, even though they were excluded from the holiest of holies. But this idea that actually the light would illuminate the tent of meeting. What are you driving at here? Here's the final idea that's the oil of success. We've had it alluded to over and over again this week. The Lord is in this place. But that's the Lord. I love you. I want to be with you. I want to walk with you. Now, as it's already been alluded to, He's called us to service, He's called us to work, He's called us to mission. We get all of that. That is a given in a place like this. But actually, there is something of the glory of just meeting with Him. And in the midst of my own journeys and suffering, one of the byproducts of that Christian has been deeper intimacy with Him. A person or a Christian will drive us to Him or from Him. Actually, a byproduct of my own life has been a greater sense and desire for intimacy. Jane alluded to this magnificently when she shared, and my heart absolutely leapt at this idea that she had. She talked about just coming into His presence and not asking for anything. And in the midst of my own journey, the Lord literally called me to do that. I went through a period where I literally, over a season of time, asked Him for nothing. Now, how do I love that? Who doesn't? Things I wanted, things I would like. And here's what the Lord was testing in me, which Peter landed brilliantly last night. Do you want me, or do you want what I offer? Are you only coming to me, to use Peter's language, for the baby? Are you coming to me because of me? If I said to you, there'll never be a baby, you can still come. Funny, when badges are taken off you, when platforms are taken off you, when influence is taken off you, you ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? Like what's my role? I don't mean why in the bad sense, I mean what's my motivation? What's really going on here? Why do I really do what I do? And I remember sitting in the presence of the Lord, and I said this to the Lord, if I never preach again, I will love you with all of my heart for the rest of my life. No one ever offers me a job ever again. I will serve you forever. I will find a way to honor your name. If it means stuffing shells in Tesco, I will do it. because I refuse to allow the press to take me away from him. You can have everything else. Take the bag. It's a bag. Take the office. It's an office. Take the platform. It's a platform. But you're not having him. You're not having him. I want him. And can I say this really carefully as I land this? There are truths learned in a moment of pressing, not learned anywhere. You know, I married Dawn 30 years ago, and it's very tempting. It's very pleasing. The first couple of years of our lives, it was wonderful. You know, there was hardly any money, but life was great. It was an adventure. We were planting a little church. Dawn got a wonderful little job, and it was what a blessing that job was to us. And we just served Jesus, and it was just an adventure. And then, out of the blue, and David and Dorcas will remember, Dawn just got sick. I remember coming home, it was actually in David and Dorcas' house. And I remember I walked into the living room one Christmas before we had kids, and Dawn just said to me casually, because Dawn suffers very quietly, you know, just like suffering and stuff. And Dawn said to me, just out of the blue, she said, you know, I've just been sick. Because she'd been sick. And I said, darling, Christmas, you know, we've had amazing food. It's probably just a wee bit of food, rich food. Maybe you're just feeling that very well. We're going kept being sick. And kept being sick to the point where, and Dorcas will testify this, because Dorcas came down to help me, there's at the point where Dawn literally was, at one point, the lowest point of this, was bedridden. Could hardly withstand to feed herself. So this gorgeous, beautiful, attractive, vivacious woman that I married sort of wasn't quite there now. And yet, I think that's when I started making it. I realized when she couldn't give me anything, I really loved it. When she was giving me stuff, she was amazing. Bringing money into the house, so we hardly had any money. She was amazing. Carrying on a little church, serving, doing all that she does, and all the amazing things she continues to do. She's an absolutely staggering woman. If there is such a thing as clothing, we need to clone her. You know what I mean? She's absolutely amazing. But there came a season in our marriage where she could give nothing. And it didn't look like we were ever going to escape from this. Especially suggested to us that she was making herself sick. I remember him sitting, bless his heart, top specialist, sitting at his desk, never touched her, never looked at her, never examined her, looked at her file, and didn't even look up from the file when he said to her, I think you're making yourself sick. He did very well to survive. Don't arrive that day. Because I wanted to reach over his very grandiose desk and rip his face off. And love. I found that possibly one of the most insulting moments of my life. And he told me nothing about the woman who was insulting the most. We reached this terrible moment where it looked like Dawn would never get better. And yet, it was there. But I think I realized I was in love with her. Absolutely. That doesn't make sense. But I somehow saw her. For her. Rather than for what she could do for me. And I made a promise in my home. I remember as she was sick, I made a promise. I said, Lord, I want you to heal her, but if she never got healed, I will love her all my life. I made a promise. Now the Lord was gracious, and not only got healed, we've had 3 gorgeous children together, and she continues to be an amazing woman. But I think that's at the heart of Manoah. I think that's at the heart of the Son, and I think that's at the heart of the Christ. come to me. Not for what I will give you, not for what you're going to get. Just come to me because I am the Lord. Peter left us with this idea. Is he enough for us? And can I say this? Can I say this as a close? In the midst of your oppression and suffering, if you can lift up your hand and say, he is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. I'm not trying to be good. But I'm telling you, honestly, speaking by the authority of God, if you can do that, he is enough. You have just released the oil of success. There is oil flowing from you that will burn brighter than any sermon, will burn brighter than any idea, that will burn brighter than anything beyond this moment. Why? Because you say, Lord, I don't get this, I don't understand this, and I don't even like this. But you are enough. You are enough. The oil of success is walking with him, even though we don't like the path. And Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, that's what he teaches us. That's what the cross teaches us. That's what the gorgeous little olive teaches us. If we eat the olive, it's gone. But if we press the olive, it will absorb. And it's light way beyond itself. And at the heart of that oil of success is this simple idea. Not what I want, but what you want. I think it's been a fascinating camp this year. I think it's been a camp of intimacy. And continuously the heartbeat of the Father has come through to us. And the call of surrender to him has been the pulse of this week. Some of us have literally got our cases packed and we're ready to go. Some of us will head off this weekend. Wherever you're going, whatever you do, let us be men and women who say, he is enough. As the olive was placed, it produced pure oil. The pure oil was lit. It became a light of worship. It became a light of witness. It became a light of walk. And each of those expressions is an expression of success in the midst of our journey. Why don't you stand with me? You've been incredibly, wonderfully patient. Time is gone. What is success? Success can be many things, but in the context of perhaps the first oil of the olive, success is worship. Lifting our voice and saying the Lord is above all. Success can be many things, but in the oil that comes from the first olive, success is saying, no matter what it looks like, the Lord is with me. Success can be many things, but in the context of the oil that comes from the olive, success is saying, the Lord is enough. Lord, I pray for every person standing in this beautiful room, a room that represents 50 years of heritage, miracles, transformation, changed lives, changed homes, changed destinies. A room that represents literally churches being revolutionized. And people encountering Jesus and the power of the Holy Spirit as they've never encountered you before. And Lord, I pray that, Lord, in this sacred place, each of us will have an openness, a sensitivity, a humility before you. That, Lord, ultimately, whatever we become, whatever we do, whatever we achieve, Lord. We will be able to declare, the Lord is with me. We will be able to declare, the Lord is enough for me. And Lord, in the midst of our challenges, I pray that the oil of success will flow. That in those ancient days, when they lit the menorah and placed it in the tent of meeting, Lord, the light of the fresh olive brought something of your glory to that place. I pray that the light that comes out of the pressing and the pressing the people in this room have experienced will bring something of your glory to their world and to the world around them. And so, Lord, I pray, may the oil of success flow from us. May we be able to say, the Lord is above all. May we be able to say, the Lord is with me. May we be able to say, the Lord is in us. And so, Lord, your blessing on each one of us, I pray. May the Lord bless you. And may he keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. In Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bless you.